All right, we are down to the last talk of the day. Thank you so much, everyone, for bearing with us. I know we're running way over time. I promise I'll go fast, but wanted to get some ideas floating out there, and kind of in advance of the value accrual and funding track that's happening on Tuesday. So mark your calendars for that. But just especially kind of from a core protocol and builder perspective, thinking about what our needs are and our design goals are as we start going into the next phase of evolving Filecoin incentives and making sure that our rewards are rewarding what fuels the Filecoin economy so that they are a flywheel of growth and a flywheel of value generation for all of the clients who are coming and paying to store data with Filecoin, that our rewards fuel the growth of Filecoin's growth as well. So as we start thinking about this, we actually ran a survey across a number of key on-ramps to get an understanding of what their needs and pain points are from L1 today. So a key thing that we just heard about from Luca and a little bit Shashank as well is definitely on-ramps. All of their users are asking for and expecting reliable, fast retrievals. This changes depending on the SLAs that each on-ramp is giving to their clients. Sometimes that's CDN level fast retrieval. Sometimes that's 24 hours, large scale kind of archival data dumps. But reliable retrievals is generally a big need and default. Flexible payments, pay as you go payments, stablecoin payments was definitely a need. Integration and interoperability across chains or with IPFS was flagged. Stronger guarantees around things like deletion, retrieval SLAs, encryption was an ask, and then general enterprise readiness. So more industry specific expectation. And it was cool to see that of the on-ramps polled that we had, more than half saying that Filecoin was, over 5 in terms of criticality to their business offering and client relationships. Though I think we want to see maybe more of these folks being 7 and above as we go forward and run additional surveys. So as we're thinking about alignment between L1 and L2, we've I think all been observing from adjacent some of the conversations between value accrual and alignment in the Ethereum ecosystem and how the L1 there is evolving and how L2s are scaling the L1, but also fueling the token economy of the L1 network as well, and making sure that we have regenerative and sustainable incentives. So as we're defining this in Filecoin land, some of the design goals that we would propose would be, one, to drive usage of core Filecoin deal protocols with on-chain payments, where the Filecoin L1 is able to offer a set of core building blocks and services that are useful and used by L2s. And here I'm using L2 very broadly. It could be an actual L2, but it could just be an on-ramp, a smart contract, anything along those lines that might be. I think we have someone. Thank you. The second component here is making sure that overall we're seeing an increase in network activity and usage that is therefore driving things like value accrual. And I don't think we want gas to be a key component here. We generally would want many different chains with tons of block space to be able to support large scale growth and adoption from many L2s to then all be generating value accrual back to L1. So some of the key metrics we think we should be looking at around this: one is storage volume. Obviously, PIBs of data that are onboarded by on-ramps per window of time, because the more of that data is existing, that's like the canonical unit of value charged versus other networks, say like AWS. And so PIBs of data that are flowing through. We might have to expand this, obviously, as we have more different types of services, but more of our service utilized. And then the value of those services. So the amount of fill or USDFC or whatever payment mechanism that's paid for those deals, obviously in a way that isn't going to hamper their growth and adoption, but that takes a very, very, very small cut, just like credit cards and other things take a small cut of the value being transacted through their fundamental platforms, are then able to continue to scale the economy with the usage of those services. So what we've been thinking about right now is to have some sort of scoring system by which each on-ramp's contribution to those core L1 metrics can be used to score that on-ramp, and figure out, how much of the total value that's been generated on L1 is being brought to the network by each of those different on-ramps, L2s, smart contracts, off-chain sales companies, whatever you want to call them. And that we can then use that scoring system to distribute rewards from some shared pool in a periodic manner proportionally to those on-ramp scores. So as we see more storage volume or more service volume, I guess, or more deal value being generated by these different on-ramps, that would increase the rewards that they get from this kind of L1 shared pool. Couple of design requirements that we think are important as we design this. We really want to see on-ramps be incentivized to bring more of that service volume or deal value into these L1 on-chain deals, making sure that there is this kind of flywheel style incentive to use those core protocol primitives. But it needs to be disincentivized or irrational to create fake self-dealing activity that doesn't actually bring real usage into the economy. So it should be irrational to do things like useless rewards farming style activities, where you're just trying to earn a reward for transacting with yourself. I think a bonus would be enabling token holders to participate in this process in some useful way, either to earn yield or to play some sort of governance or stakeholder role over, making sure that this utilization of network resources is flowing effectively. But we still have a couple of open questions, like are, storage volume, total deal value, are those the right metrics? Are there other metrics we should be taking into account when designing the scoring system? What should be the weighting function per metric from a reward function? From a funding source perspective, how can we iterate through this over time and come up with a good model? Would it be better to start with, say, doing an allocation of the mining reserve, where this is a new kind of block reward mechanism for on-ramps? Would it instead be more reasonable to go straight to the existing block rewards that are being minted, or figure out another kind of like, subnet style rewards pool that we can start iterating with to prototype this as we go? And then last but not least, what is the best mechanism for collecting these metrics about on-ramps? Will that be just based on the pure L1 kind of like referral of deals? So like clients associated with SPs or having clients associated with on-ramps or having on-ramps like register themselves in some way. Maybe a mechanism might be a on-ramp focused allocator, which can then have visibility into the total storage volume and deal value generated by those on-ramps or other referrer type entities. Couple of inspirations and references that we're planning to pull from as part of this design thing. This is all in preparation of a workshop that we'd like to do in person in Toronto. Pulling some inspiration from RetroPGF. So thinking about how we can have a group of stakeholders defining metrics, assessing impact that has already been done, and then using, say, like, a funding mechanism to distribute rewards across those participants. Optimism, Gitcoin, existing Filecoin, RetroPGF have all been doing work related to this and iterating on how to do it well. We've been looking at the work that BitTensor has done as well, where they've been kind of tokenizing incentives for their resource provisioning subnets. They're kind of dynamically adjusting rewards over time and figuring out which rewards are flowing to which subnets. And they have the validators review the contributions or like how that allocation is being made to kind of grant those rewards to the subnets. Also had a great chat with Vanna, who I think will be joining us on Tuesday to talk a little bit more about how they've been learning from BitTensor. They've kind of extended some of the work BitTensor's doing by actually having this selection committee iteratively set the metrics and iterate on those metrics if they see them being gamed for subnets to compete against in their individual marketplaces, and then doing a bit of a deep dive on BitRobot and how BitRobot works, where they have both a governance senate and this Gandalf AI model, where which of those stakeholder entities is being is most governing the rewards is weighted by token holder staking. So actually doing a bit of a deep dive here, the way that they're setting things up, which isn't quite live yet, so it's still early days, but it's in their white paper. Token holders choose to delegate either to the Gandalf AI or to this Senate committee of stakeholders. Gandalf AI would then set a set of metrics that it's prioritizing and then reward subnets according to that metric set. The Senate might choose a different set of metrics by which it would weight rewards to different subnets. And these would both happen in parallel, and token holders on each epoch would be able to choose, do I want to shift my allocation? Do I want to choose both? Like what percent of my stake do I want to delegate to each one, which then weights how much of the total rewards pool is distributed by which of these subcommittees, which I think is a really interesting model to like slowly over time bootstrap with human governance, but then hopefully transition to AI governed distributions, which gets more automatic, less human in the loop about how rewards are being governed. And thinking about this for Filecoin ecosystem, an interesting thought around like what is the size of that pool and how is it being distributed to folks? One thing that would help make sure that it's always like it's never rational to bring fake traffic and data is that pool is always sized, that the pool of block rewards is always sized to be less than the kind of L1 costs that have been generated by those on-ramps. So you can never earn more money than what you're spending, but you can subsidize your costs even more so than working with a centralized system for participating in that L1 model. So you get like a rebate as an on-ramp for participating, but it would never be rational to spend money on gas with fake traffic and then get a rebate for like 90% of your gas, but or 90% of your burn fee, that you still end up having paid 10% into the system. Cool. So just wanted to surface a number of these ideas. Still early days. Would love to start a conversation with folks who are interested in talking more about this. And we'll be having a deeper panel with some of these folks on Tuesday to talk about value accrual funding and the path to sustainable growth. So come join us there. Also, definitely plan to join us in person in Toronto. We'll be having a workshop where we'll be presenting even more fleshed out proposals for like, how do we get here? What are the incremental pathways we start putting this into practice, and iterating on it live in the wild. And if you are an on-ramp in Filecoin today, we'd love to talk to you as part of this design process, because we want there to be a strong incentive and reward for on-ramps that are bringing lots of traffic to the Filecoin ecosystem, and vice versa. We don't want to suddenly create a lot of competitors to on-ramps that aren't doing the hard work that the on-ramps today really are doing to bring legitimate and awesome clients. So we want to make sure that the metrics we choose are actually going to recognize all that work. Thank you all for coming.